Alright, I just got done with the Camry in the background there. Had this 2015 Honda Civic come in. Rear-ended a Chevy Tahoe, I believe. Going to be replacing the hood, grill, bumper, headlight, this fender, blending the paint into the door. And I'm going to start the tear down now to see what else I've got to get. May have to change the radiator support. Alright, I got the first shipment of parts in for the Civic. So the fender for the right hand side actually came with a few clips here. I guess they assume that you'll break the clips getting them out of the wheel well here. Let's see what this note says. Here's the hood. Still haven't got it out of the box. I'm just going through everything now and checking it, make sure nothing's bent, damaged. Also got the radiator and condenser over there. This is the hood latch. I've also got hinges. I've got an O-ring here for the condenser. This one's actually for the sensor in the radiator. Just going to replace it so it doesn't leak for sure. And they shorted me the large one for the condenser. I'm waiting on that. I'll be back anyway to get the next round of parts, so I'll just get it then. I got a used headlight here. Came with a bracket. I think that's about it for right now. We'll get this stuff unpacked and I'll give you a quick shot when I get it open. Okay, I've got the Civic torn down as far as I'm going with it. I've got the coolant drained into this pan. I bought two of these where I can keep the lids on them. Have a clean one and one that I don't really care about too much. Just for old coolant, but I want one I can keep a lid on, keep it clean. I can pour that right back in into a jug through a screen or a strainer back into the car. This car's only got 8,000 miles on it, so I'm going to do that just like I did with that Camry. Save as much coolant as I can. Looks like I can save this. I thought about buying this section. You can get this piece from over here. That's already welded there, and then the piece runs all the way down to the bottom to the cross member. It's not really bad enough to cut it out. I'd rather save it. If it was any worse, I would cut it out, but then you go into, breaking factory welds and you lose all your factory corrosion protection. Then you've got to try to put it back. So I think the best thing on this one would be to just straighten this out. I think I can pull this out with my strap and my bar. And then here there's a minor buckle underneath this fender bracket, right under here. But I can tap that out and this edge here up. And this bracket's got to come up right here. It's gotten flattened out. There was a step in it right there. It's like this side. There's a step right there. And it got flattened out. You can see how it's flat now. I can straighten that out. I'll try to be minimally invasive here. Radiator actually wasn't leaking, but it got twisted enough that I don't really trust it to leave it in there. So we're going to do a supplement for that and the condenser. A few clips. Might be a few other pieces, but they didn't put on the estimate to replace the tie bar, which there's really no fixing that. It's a boxed member. You can't straighten that up. So I'm going to get him a used one of those. He's trying to save his deductible, so I'm going to get that used. Probably reuse that baffle there. It's really not that bad. I think everything else is okay. I've got the AC lines capped off with just rubber caps that I've been collecting from buying parts that have caps on them. And I keep them taped up because a little bit of pressure will still build up in there from the refrigerant still expanded in the system, so it'll blow the cap off. I've experienced that before. So I tape those on there to hold it. And get the new radiator and everything back in and recharge the system once I have the condenser in. I got to go get a parts list together for the supplement and get that filed. Make one more order. I'll be back when I got some more parts and get ready to go with that. Okay, I've gone into de-trimming this door for the blend. On the back here, this piece of trim that runs vertically, there's a screw at the bottom. Once you take that screw out, then there's two, I believe, little keyways here, yeah, just these two. Piece slides up and out of these. Then I was able to grab the bottom edge of this belt molding here and slowly start wiggling the thing off. I dropped the window down just to get a better grip on it, and it just popped right off. Right here it kind of hung up a little bit in this slot, but I put a little pry tool under there, a plastic one, popped right off, didn't damage anything. on the molding, so I don't have to buy any clips for that or anything. Still need to get the handle and the mirror off. That'll be ready to go. I'm gonna do that later. But right now I'm focusing on getting this piece pulled back out. I just took the coolant that I drained into that tub, and I take an old gallon jug. This is old washer fluid, but I just take an old gallon jug here, put a funnel in it, throw a strainer in there and a socket just to weigh this down, so just for me pouring the fluid in here doesn't move this around, and just strains it through a paint strainer and catches all the junk in there. Got some bugs and whatever else it was in that fluid. I'll just pour that right back in the car. But right now I'm going to get started on this and try to just get it aligned. I'm going to have to knock this buckle out of it, keep it out, but this has got to come out probably, if you look across, it's at least an inch, maybe more. But this is going to be a better repair than cutting all this out, because it's not torn away anywhere. There's a buckle down there. I don't know if you can see that. Right in there, it's buckled. But I've got an access hole back here conveniently, and I can go in there with a wooden dowel or something and just tap that back out. Once I get this out, I'll have to pull this. I'll put a bolt in here and pull this out since it's dented here. Pull it with the slide hammer. Probably going to grab this flange with the vice grips and pull it back with the slide hammer too. But I'm gonna get my strap and big pry bar and strap around this, pry against the rebar here. I may end up having to go down somewhere on one of these bolts. Just depends on how much leverage I can get, but I need to pull this out like I've done before. And once I get all this straight, I'll have to get the fender mount straightened up and then take this bumper out. And I'll refinish this once I know everything fits. I'm going to leave the bumper in there now for the hood fitment. But that'll be next. I'm going to get this washer tank filler neck clip out of here so I can move it out without pulling this. And I already took the clip out of here for the AC line, so this can come back without having any pressure on the AC line. Anything like that that's connected, you want to disconnect it. There's one here, but it's pretty free. I may take that one out, but this is pretty loose now since the end of the line is off the condenser. I'm gonna get going on that. Alright, I've got the strap and the pry bar set up on the rebar there. I'm gonna set the tram gauge on this side. We're gonna have to assume for right now, until I get the tie bar in, that this is in the right position. It may be a little bit further back than it needs to be, but at least get this matched to this diagonally. And I can move both of them out later if I need to. I'm in the front hood hinge mounting hole on the other side. Alright, I've got that set. I'm going to pull this side out until I get the same measurement over here. I'm going to have to go probably, it's going to be almost 2 inches actually. I'm going to leave that set. I'm going to pull until I get it there. I'm going to check it. See how close we are. That might be too far. Pulls back pretty easily actually. I can knock it back in a little bit if I have to. Yeah, I may have gone a ½ inch too far. Came out pretty quick. I'm gonna get that worked into the right place. Then I'll come through and straighten all these flanges and buckles and everything out of it that need to be smoothed out. Be right back. I've got the body or front end dimensions printed out here. But for some reason there's no reference from where I'm measuring from over to the bolt right there where this tie bar bolts into the rest of the bulkhead. They've got a measurement from there all the way to the hole in the tie bar, but I don't have the tie bar yet. So for right now, I'm going to get the other side matched to this side so that I know it's square. And when I have the tie bar, I'll get it bolted in there. If it will bolt in, it may not. If it drops right in, it's probably going to all align itself, because there's two holes right there where it bolts into the bulkhead would have to be in the right place for those two bolts to go through the tie bar. If they're out too far, they'll be too far apart. If they're in too far, they'll be too close together. So I'm going to wait on the tie bar for a couple days, but I'm still going to match this side over here to this side, and I can come out with both if I have to at that point. Alright, I'm starting to pull that flange out to get the front face of that back straight out. Hook it on my vice grips with a slide hammer. It's going to pull the whole thing forward some, but I'm just going to have to work it back. I've got to pull this out. I'm going to have to work my way up, probably a couple places here. That spot looks good. You go up and do at least one more spot weld there. You got to pinch it right where the spot weld is, where it's closed together. I actually had to shim it with another folded piece of sheet metal, because if I go just on the flange, I have to run this screw in here too far to get it tight, and then this won't slip on if there's not enough gap between the body of the vice grip and the knob. This is a little bit thick. I'd have to get this cut down, but then it might make this weak, so I'm going to leave that alone. Let me get the rest of it worked out and I'll be back. I had pulled the rebar off and this bumper bracket. I needed to get under here. This piece had folded around the back of this. When I knocked it back through with the slide hammer, I just could not get the wrinkle out without getting it out of my way. So I could dolly it here and then mash it back flat against this piece. And I've got that as straight as I can get it up here, and also this piece here. And this is really a weak member anyway, so I'm not too concerned about just straightening this up and leaving it. It wasn't that bad to begin with. I got the little buckle out of this hole. This hole was buckled up right here and a little bit underneath this weld. I just tapped that down, straighten this thing up a little bit. I was thinking this kink was put in it, but that looks like it was made that way. The paint's not broken or anything. And there's a mount back here for the washer filler neck. This goes down inside there, it mounts. So those two holes. But it appears that this was made this way. It's too smooth and it's not pulled away here at all. It would have been pulled away from that weld a little bit. That's perfectly fine. So as long as the fender will mount and this is in the right place, it really won't matter anyway, even if that is buckled, but I'm pretty sure it's not. This was pushed in slightly. So I straightened that out, but there's no way it did that. The other side is flat, but it's too pronounced. And there's another mount here. I think maybe they just stiffened it up for that. I'm going to try to do the fender now and get it to fit. Make sure this thing is low enough. If this is high, then it's going to kick my gap out down here. So that'll tell me that. I just hung the fender on to see how close I am on the front end here. Got the gap right. I don't have anything in the bottom, but I've got it held in place where I know it'll be. Look, gap looks perfect. Got this even, got this flush. Had to move that mount in just a hair. I just pushed on the fender and it went straight in where it needed to be. And I'm off maybe, oh, I don't know, 1/8 of an inch, something like that, from getting the bolt in. So what I'm going to do now is, I'm assuming this is just pushed back from when it got hit. So I'm just going to tap this back with a rubber hammer just to push this over and down, and it should fit right up. Just tapped on it a little bit with the rubber hammer. Now it's lining right up. I won't know if that's right until I get the hood on it, but this right here being held in, and that hole there is perfectly centered now. So I'll get the rebar in, make sure I got the front end square, and this may be perfect. Alright, I got the hood mounted up. I ended up having to take my porta power right there and just put the base of it right here on the floor. And with the headlight, trying the headlight just in and out, I ended up having to push this part right in here at the valley of this this ridge. I had to push that up from the inside just to get this up about 1/8 of an inch so the headlight would slide in. But everything's lining up real well. Still waiting on the tie bar. It's going to be a couple of days, but I've got about a 5mm gap on either side. I couldn't get it any tighter than that, but I think once it's painted, it's going to look fine. It could be a little tighter, but I can't move the fenders in any further than they are now, or they won't be flush in the back here. This will not be. This won't be even if I push it in too far, or any further. It'll be too far. So I've got everything, I think, in the right place, but I got to double check with the tie bar once it gets here. But the gaps at the headlights, you can see when I drop the hood down, you can see that edge of the headlight, and it's the same over here, right down there. So everything's out as far as it needs to be. So I'm assuming that I've got the radiator support in the right place, but until I get the tie bar here, I won't really know for sure. But what I'm planning to do now is get the lights back out. Well, that one can stay, but I'm gonna get this light back out, pull the hood and the fender back off. Now that I know it's gonna work, I'm gonna go ahead and trim out the parts because I've got to have the fender on to do the blend. So since I've got to trim it out on the inside with the silver, might as well do everything else. The underside of the hood, the hinges. I'm gonna prep that post in there on the radiator support, and also I'll prep the tie bar once it gets here, and I'll just shoot all that at one time. Then I'll put all this back on and make sure everything's going to fit. I'll probably end up pulling the hood back off the hinges and just leaving them on the body to paint the hood off the car with the bumper. And I'll probably do the fender and the blend as just a separate job, so I don't have so much in here at one time. Alright, quick update. Got the radiator support out where I think it's supposed to be. I'm still waiting on the tie bar. It'll be here tomorrow, and I'll get it in here, get it prepped for paint. Got this area right here prepped. This is all red Scotch-Brite over into here. I'm going to blend it underneath this bracket, a little bit on top of it. So this will get painted. I'll come down this way just a little bit. I had to put some filler over my tooling marks here where I had to bite it with the vice grips. Also back behind here, where I had to flatten this out and slide hammer that out with hammer and dolly. So I got some filler over that. I'll be painting all back here, all behind here over this bracket, towards the front of this and down about halfway, and just spot repairing that thing. I've got underside of the hood scuffed. All this gets covered with the hood insulator that's over there. Well, was over there. It covers this area. Took it off already. And label will go here and here. I've also got the hinges. Those are scuffed. And the fender. I'm just going to do the inside edge. I may do that when I put it on the car since the hood will be off. I may just back mask it here and do this whole thing at one time. But I might just go ahead and do it while I've got it here, just in case I decide to do the hood on the car, which I don't think I will. That way it'll already be done. But I'm definitely going to do in here, because I got to hang the fender on the car and I can't get to this. And I'll do a little bit behind this edge where I can't get to these with it on the car as easily, at least. But everything else I'll do on the outside. I'll get this when I do the outside. I'll get this part, that way it's all cleared like the factory did it. And I'll go underneath, and when I get it on the car, I'm going to have to mask a line here with some foam tape and spray chip guard underneath after I get the sealer on it. It's got to go over a 2K primer. It's actually supposed to go over a cured primer, but I don't have any body work on this car, so I don't have any primer to get out. Or I'd go ahead and prime the bottom of the fender, let that cure. But I've sprayed the chip guard over sealer that's been on for 30 minutes to an hour, and it's been fine before. So as long as it's flashed off enough to where the chip guard, if I put it on dry enough and just don't put it on real heavy and wet, it won't eat into it too bad. So I'll do that when I get it on there, so I can make that transition line from the rocker straight into the fender and not have to worry about trying to match it up with it off here. I'll do that when I go to seal the car and put the color on it. For now, I'm waiting on the insurance adjuster to come by and do the supplement. I'll send in the request for radiator, the condenser, the tie bar, the condenser bracket over on this side, and a couple other small pieces. So they're going to come by and just verify that I actually do need that, and give me the go-ahead on it, even though I'm going to do it anyway, no matter what they say. I've got to leave it all apart like this so you can look at it. Alright, I've got all the parts ready to trim. That's the fender, hood, tie bar just came in. Just happened to be black, so it almost looks like E-coat, but it is used. And I've got the hinges hanging here on the same rack. And I'll have to spray some on that area right there on the radiator support when I get ready to do that. Right now, I don't have time to do that tonight, but I'm going ahead and taking the trim off the door. I'm going to get the mirror and the door handle out on the outside. I want to show you before I got too far. The panel's got in the back seat back there, but pop this little cover out of here. That's inside there, and you just reach up there with this little flathead screwdriver and pop this cover out. There's one screw through here, and then you pop the window switch panel up in the front first, where that red clip is, then the second red clip, and then you pop it out of the back that slides into the armrest. So you put it in first and drop it down to reinstall it. This just snaps around on the inside of these 4 spots on the inside of the trim panel. So now I'm going to go ahead and pull the wiring connector off for the mirror, unbolt it, and then work on the door handle after that. But I want to show you this thing I found. I was going to try to find something or make something to do this, to hold this switch closed. And while I'm working on this, I don't want the lights to stay on. And even if I turn the lights on up there on some vehicles, or turn them off up there completely, there might be a light in the door or something like that, or in the footwells. So I was going to make something that holds the switch closed on some of these Asian cars that have these, like Toyota and Honda. And I came across looking around trying to figure out what to do, and found this tool from Thexton. Part number 445. It comes with this little orange tag, so you'll see it. It says remove before closing door. You don't want to shut the door on this. You'll scratch it, but it's just got a little rubber footing here that could grab the A-pillar trim, and it just squeezes on the button there for the dome light. They make one that's in reverse. It's like this. At its rest position, you squeeze it together. The old GM type, you put it in here and it springs out and holds the plunger type switch in there closed, so that you can turn the buzzer off or dome light or whatever. But I like to keep these on here so that I can leave the door open. I don't have to worry about the battery draining, and if I want to leave the door open for body work, then I can leave that on there indefinitely, just like the door is closed. I'm going to go ahead and get the mirror off and the door handle out, and I'll come back and show you where the fasteners are for those. Alright, the mirror's off. I pulled this back, and this black stuff here is the nastiest stuff on earth. Keep that off of you. There's 3 bolts. You see those tiny holes through there? 1 through there. And the mirror also has a catch on it right there between the top 2 bolts. So it goes in and catches, it won't fall off on you. So once you get these out, pull it back and press this tab down right here where my thumb is. That'll release it. Just pull the wiring out. Over here, pulled the plug out of the end. This black plastic plug out of the end of the door. Took a 10mm bolt out of that piece. And then this piece right here on the end of the handle, once you take that bolt out of the back of it, this just pulls out of the door. And this has got a button here built into it. That wiring runs in with the handle and plugs in here, and it was actually behind this protector. Plugged into that, and that's snapped up into the top of this little black bracket back here. So I just dropped that down, pressed down this release tab right here on the back, just unplugged it. And this will come out with the handle. You have to pull it back this direction. It goes in that way. You pull it back, and it comes out that way and lifts through this hole, and everything comes out. This plastic trim that's hanging on the wiring will go back on the door. Then it's come off anyway for me to paint it. And I'll also take this one off, and I'll tape back behind here, or either just stuff this hole full of paper. That way I can paint this entire area back here behind the handle. So this will be my blend panel. I'll come back and I'll sand all this with 1000 grit on the DA in the big areas, and I'll come back with the gray Scotch-Brite everywhere else. Alright, I've got the repaired support here ready for some easy coat. Got the filler sanded out right here where I had the vice grips, and back in here where I had a little bit of filler over the tool marks from slide hammer on that. I had to pull that out with a slide hammer because I can't get back behind it from this direction with the hammer. So I got it flat as I could get it. And I just put fiberglass filler over that, smoothed it off. I'm going to start it with this easy coat so that it matches this color right here that's underneath the factory paint. And this is direct to metal, so I can just coat straight over bodywork and the steel there with this. And after that, I can go directly over with base coat. I'm going to put this on first since I've got to do this area only. And I'll come back with base coat over these areas. I'll spray some adhesion promoter on these parts just because I can't really sand real well in these little crevices here. I got as much as I could, but I'll coat it with adhesion promoter first and then do all the base coat. So I'll get easy coat here, adhesion promoter there, come back and base coat this, and then trim everything else out with silver that I've got on the racks. That'll have everything trimmed, and I think I've decided to leave the hood on it to paint it because I'm only going to have to paint the hood, the fender, and a little bit of color into the door. So the base coat's not going to be very much, at least on the car. I'll have a little bit more clear when I go to clear the whole area, but that's not going to be too much clear all at one time, so I think I can get away with that. Then I'll do the bumper in here probably separately, or I may just set the bumper over here in the front of the car and do it all at one time. I'll just have to decide when I get everything ready to go if I'm going to be able to do the bumper with it or not.